So here's 13 to 21 in the study guide. We're talking about a parallelogram, and it gives you starting information asking you to find a bunch of missing values. I've already gone ahead and labeled what the problem tells us as givens here. Namely, part of a diagonal is 6, the top xy is 10, and I think I forgot also to label the left-hand side wx it tells us is 7. And we can find out almost all the information that this problem is asking us for. 13, yz is just opposite the side we already knew was 7. And in parallelograms, opposite sides are congruent to each other. And so yz has to also be 7. mz is the lower part of the smaller diagonal, and we also know in parallelograms that the diagonals bisect each other. So if xm was 6, mz has to also be 6. xz is just the full diagonal, and so it has to be 12. wz is the bottom of the parallelogram. Once again, it's opposite a side that we know about, so that also has to be 10. And I'm going to skip over measure of angle 3 for just a second. The measure of angle 1 is something that we can definitely find, because we know in the bottom left corner we have those two angles that are located at the vertex W. The 40 degrees that we see is going to be alternate interior with angle number 1. And so angle 1's got to be 40 degrees as well, since you have parallel lines on the left and right sides, and the WY diagonal is a transversal line. We have alternate interior angles for both that 40 degrees, and also it'll be 32 degrees just above it at angle 2, giving us another answer. 20. Measure of ZWX. ZWX is just the combination of our 40 and 32 degrees, and so that's 72 degrees. And WXY has to be supplementary to 72, because that's another quality of parallelograms, is that consecutive vertex angles have to be supplementary to each other. And that means that this has to be 108 degrees, because it combined with the 72, they have to together add to 180 degrees. They're supplementary. But then we actually don't have a way to find measure of angle 3. Given what you know currently, that is, there's no way to really get measure of angle 3, because it's not going to be congruent with 4. And even though we know the measure of WXY, we don't really know how 3 and 4 split that up. They're not necessarily congruent to each other. In fact, they're not congruent to each other. That would only be the case in a rhombus. And this isn't a rhombus, right? We have 7 as one side and 10 as another. Your measure of angle 3, we're going with not possible for right now. Later in the year, you'll be able to do that one.